I have to say that my mother inspired me the most, and I know many people have that same response. Mine's unique in that my mother was raised in low-income housing in Baltimore City, and she's the oldest of her 6 siblings. And from that, she was able to, of course, graduate from high school. She was one of the smartest people in her class, but unfortunately was unable to attend college because of having to help support her family and her siblings. And so she inspired me because she understood the value of education and instilled that in me while we were growing up, and she was raising me. She was married soon after high school to my father and had me when she was 21 years old. And unexpectedly, 5 years later, my father, her husband, died of a brain aneurysm. And so she had to raise her only daughter as best as she can. And she did that by working as a civil servant with the Social Security Administration and was a retired federal employee. And because of her hard work, she was able to give me the value of education. And without her, I wouldn't be where I am today and wouldn't be the person I am today. So because of her strength and her commitment and love for me, she has been my inspiration. I started in the Comptroller's office in May of 1997. And I remember that year because I was married later that summer. And I started as an attorney hearing officer in the Hearings and Appeals section in the Compliance Division. And surprisingly, in 1997, I was the first attorney of color hired in the Comptroller's office. And I think about it, I came from the Maryland Department of Labor Licensing and Regulation and was the first attorney of color in that agency when I was hired as an intern in law school. And that was back in 1991. And you would think that the 90s wouldn't be a year or a decade of firsts, but it was, and especially not a decade of firsts in state government. And it was also, I think because of tax and tax administration, there were few women who have been in the profession. And I was fortunate to have come behind Linda Tanton, the former Deputy Comptroller, and she has been a mentor to me and a role model for me. So after being hired as an attorney hearing officer, I did leave the agency once, and she always said you can leave once and come back. I left to be an administrative law judge with the Maryland Office of Administrative Hearings, and then returned to the Hearings and Appeals section to later manage that section, and then was fortunate to be promoted as assistant director and then deputy director and director of the Compliance Division. And in October of 2015, Comptroller Francho appointed me as Deputy Comptroller of Maryland, and the first, as with all the other positions within the Comptroller's office, the first person of color and second woman to serve in this position. And most people don't know, but the Deputy Comptroller is actually a constitutional office. So it's in the Maryland's Constitution that there is to be a Deputy Comptroller. And I am the second woman and the first person of color to have been appointed to that role. For me to be a woman in leadership in a large state agency is to be a leader any and everywhere. You're always being watched, and you always have to be certain that you are serving as that role model for everyone, not just women. And for me, being a woman of color, not just a woman of color, but for anyone who is interested in leadership. With leadership comes responsibility. So that means that you should always have demonstrated your steadfastness, your ability to work hard, and your professionalism. And a key part of professionalism is preparedness. And I believe that you should make certain that you have the foundation in order to lead, and that includes the academic requirements for the position, the experience for the position. Nothing's given to someone, everything is earned, and I believe that you should demonstrate that in everything that you do. Integrity is key. Without integrity, then people are not willing to trust you, and they should not trust you, and you need to have that trust and develop those relationships and appreciation for the people you work with so that they will want you to lead them. What's of most interest for me, it always has to do with equality and fairness. And so a major women's issue for me is women's equality. And it's not just pay equity, it's not just access, but it's full equality. Even in the role that I am today, people may be surprised that I'm sharing this, but I do think it's important to share that every day, unfortunately, I feel that I have to prove myself over and over again. And you would think that my career, which is over 20 plus years, and all of the hard work that I've put into it by graduating, of course, from undergrad with honors and having earned a Juris Doctorate degree, and as well as having a master's in business administration, that I would have already proven my worth, my value, my contribution to the agency and to the state of Maryland. But every day you're challenged, whether you're challenged by someone externally who questions why you are in the role that you're in. Even internally, people may be surprised that sometimes people want to question your authority and not want to take your direction. And that's something that I don't believe men have to be as concerned about as women, and definitely not something that people who are not considered minorities have to consider. And I have this conversation with my husband on a regular basis. He says that when he walks into a room, he already has that credibility, and I shouldn't have to, whenever I enter a room, prove myself on a daily basis. I should be respected because of the role that I'm in and the fact that I've earned my right to be in this role. And I prove every day that I have the ability to perform the role and to perform it well. And so until there's true equality for women and true equality for people of color, that is something that I'll always fight for.